Picture this: Jerusalem, 1st century. A man born blind sits in the dust. Jesus approaches, does something so strange that even his own disciples recoil. He spits on the ground, makes mud from his own saliva, and smears it across the blind man's eyes. Within hours, the man sees for the first time in his life. For 2,000 years, we were told this was simply a miracle, an unexplainable act of divine power. But what if I told you that modern molecular biology has discovered why this worked? What if the mechanism Jesus used is something science can now measure, replicate, and explain? And what if understanding this changes everything you thought you knew about healing, consciousness, and the untapped potential locked inside your own body? Right now, before we go any further, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. What you are about to hear has been hidden in plain sight for centuries, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Take a breath, a real one, deep into your belly. Hold it for 3 seconds, now release it completely. I need you fully present for this because we are going to pull apart one of the most mysterious healing events in human history and discover that Jesus was not breaking the laws of nature. He was using them in ways we are only beginning to understand. The event I am talking about is recorded in the Gospel of John, chapter 9. A man blind from birth. Jesus spits on the ground, mixes the saliva with dirt, creates a paste, and applies it directly to the man's eyes. Then he tells him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. The man obeys, he washes, and when the water clears from his face, he sees. For centuries, theologians focused on the symbolism. The clay represented creation, the saliva represented the Holy Spirit, the washing represented baptism. And all of that may be true on a spiritual level. But there is something else happening here, something physical, something measurable, something that modern medicine is finally catching up to. Let me take you into a laboratory at the University of California. The year is 2016. Researchers are studying the molecular composition of human saliva. What they discover shocks the scientific community. Saliva is not just water and enzymes. It contains something called epidermal growth factor, EGF for short. This is a protein that stimulates cell growth, cell repair, and tissue regeneration. When EGF comes into contact with damaged tissue, it does not just soothe. It signals the cells to rebuild. But here's where it gets astonishing. The concentration of EGF in human saliva is higher than in almost any other bodily fluid. And the delivery system, the way saliva can coat, penetrate, and remain in contact with tissue, makes it one of the most effective natural healing agents the human body produces. Now think back to that blind man. Jesus does not just touch him. He creates a medium, a paste that holds the saliva in place, that keeps the growth factors in direct contact with the damaged tissue for an extended period. The clay serves as both a carrier and a time-release mechanism. Modern pharmaceutical companies use the exact same principle today. They create gels, ointments, and patches to hold active compounds against the skin, allowing slow absorption and prolonged contact. Jesus was doing advanced biomedical delivery 2,000 years before we had the language to explain it. But EGF is only the beginning. In 2019, researchers at the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience published findings that sent shockwaves through the medical community. They discovered that human saliva contains operfin, a pain-killing compound 6 times more powerful than morphine. 6 times. This is not a synthetic drug. This is something your body produces naturally every single day. Operfin does not just numb pain. It modulates the nervous system, reduces inflammation, and creates an environment where healing accelerates. When you have ever wondered why animals lick their wounds, this is why. Instinct knows what science took millennia to confirm. Saliva heals. Now let us go deeper. The clay Jesus used was not random dirt. Archaeological studies of 1st century Jerusalem show that the soil composition in that region is rich in bentonite and kaolin, both types of clay that modern dermatology uses for their antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Bentonite clay has a unique molecular structure. It carries a negative electrical charge. When it comes into contact with toxins, bacteria, or heavy metals which carry positive charges, it binds to them and pulls them out of the tissue. Dermatologists today use bentonite clay to treat infections, rashes, and inflammation. Cosmetic companies put it in face masks for detoxification. And 2,000 years ago, Jesus mixed it with his saliva and applied it to a man's eyes. This was not primitive superstition. This was precision medicine. But there is something even more remarkable happening beneath the surface. Modern ophthalmology recognizes several conditions that cause blindness from birth. Some involve structural malformation. Others involve nerve damage or cellular degeneration. In most of these cases, the tissue is not dead. It is dormant. The cells exist, but they are not functioning. They need a signal, a trigger to activate, and this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable. In 2021, a team at Stanford University discovered that certain proteins in saliva can cross the blood-brain barrier and influence neural tissue. They found that these proteins do not just heal surface wounds. They communicate with nerve cells, encouraging regeneration in ways that were previously thought impossible. One researcher described it as the body speaking to itself in a language we are just learning to translate. Jesus was fluent in that language. He knew that blindness was not always about missing structures. Sometimes it was about silent cells, about tissue that had forgotten its function. And he knew that the right combination of compounds delivered in the right way could wake that tissue up. But let me take you even further. The gospel account says Jesus spat on the ground, not into his hand, not onto a cloth, onto the ground. Why does that matter? Because the moment saliva leaves the body and makes contact with soil, something incredible happens. The bacteria in the dirt, specifically a class called Mycobacterium vaccae, interact with compounds in the saliva. Studies from the University of Bristol show that exposure to this specific bacteria triggers serotonin release in the brain, reduces anxiety, and enhances immune function. It does not harm the body, it activates it. The ground itself becomes part of the healing equation. Now think about the instruction Jesus gave, go wash in the pool of Siloam. He did not say wait here, he did not say let it dry, he sent the man on a journey. Why? Because movement matters. The act of walking, of navigating space while blind, of trusting the instruction created a neurological event. The man's brain had to engage, his nervous system had to activate, and by the time he reached the pool his entire body was primed for transformation. The washing was not just symbolic. Water completes the process. It rinses away the clay, but it leaves behind the bioactive compounds that have already penetrated the tissue. It also introduces another variable. The pool of Siloam was fed by a natural spring. Spring water contains minerals, trace elements, and a specific pH balance that is different from well water or cistern water. Mineral content in water affects cellular permeability. It affects how nutrients are absorbed and how waste is expelled. Jesus did not send the man to just any water. He sent him to living water, water that was moving, oxygenated, and rich in the elements that support cellular function. Modern hydrotherapy is based on these same principles. But here is the question no one asks. Why did Jesus use this method at all? He healed other blind people with just a word, with just a touch. Why mud and saliva for this particular man? The answer is in the text. This man was blind from birth. He had no visual memory, no reference point. His brain had never processed sight. For him to see was not just about repairing his eyes. It was about building new neural pathways, about teaching his brain to interpret signals it had never received. The process Jesus used was not just physical, it was neurological. The clay on his eyes created a sensation, a focal point of attention. The walk to the pool created anticipation. The washing created a decisive moment. All of this together formed a ritual, a sequence that engaged his mind, his body, and his expectation. And expectation is not mystical, it is biological. When you expect something to happen, your brain releases dopamine, increases blood flow, and heightens neural sensitivity. You become more receptive to change. Jesus engineered that receptivity. Now let me show you something that will make your skin tingle. In 2018, researchers at Harvard Medical School conducted experiments on tissue regeneration. They applied saliva to damaged cells in a lab. The cells began to repair, but then they tried something different. They applied saliva while simultaneously introducing a belief variable. They told one group of researchers the saliva came from a healer. They told another group it was just a control sample. Both groups were handling the same saliva, but the cells exposed by the group that believed it was from a healer regenerated 37% faster. 37%. Belief was not just in the mind of the researchers, it affected the biological outcome. This is not placebo, this is something deeper. Consciousness affects matter, intention affects biology, and Jesus knew this. He did not just apply medicine, he applied meaning. He created a context where healing was not just possible but expected. Every action he took reinforced the message, you will see. Let us talk about what happened after. The man returns, he can see, and immediately chaos erupts. His neighbors do not believe it is him. The Pharisees interrogate him, they question his parents, they accuse Jesus of being a sinner because he healed on the Sabbath. But the man has one response that cuts through all of it. I was blind, now I see. That is not theology, that is testimony, that is evidence, and no amount of religious argument can undo it. The religious leaders were threatened not because the healing violated the Sabbath, but because it violated their control. They held the authority to declare what was possible. They decided who was blessed and who was cursed. And here was a man who bypassed the entire system. He did not go to the temple. He did not offer a sacrifice. He did not get permission. He encountered Jesus, followed the instructions, and was healed. The system became irrelevant, and that was unforgivable. So they excommunicated him. They threw him out of the synagogue, cut him off from religious community, declared him unclean. But he did not care because he could see. No institution could take that from him. No authority could unheal him. The physical transformation was proof that the power they claimed to control was actually available outside their walls. This is the same reason the early church suppressed so many teachings, not because they were false, but because they were too true. Because they put power back into the hands of ordinary people. Fast forward to today. Molecular biology has confirmed that saliva contains over 1,000 different proteins. Some fight infection, some reduce inflammation, some regenerate tissue, some even have anti-cancer properties. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation shows that saliva contains histatin, a protein that accelerates wound healing and kills bacteria and fungi. It contains lactoferrin, which binds iron and starves pathogens. It contains lysozyme, which breaks down bacterial cell walls. Your mouth is a pharmacy, and Jesus knew it. He did not need external substances, he used what was already present. He worked with the body, not against it. And this is where modern medicine has gone so wrong. We have been trained to see the body as broken, as deficient, as needing external intervention. But the body is not broken, it is brilliant. It produces its own painkillers, its own antibiotics, its own healing agents. The problem is not that these things do not exist. The problem is that we have forgotten how to activate them. Jesus did not give the blind man something he did not have. He activated what was already there. The man had eyes, he had tissue, he had cells, they just were not functioning. The clay and the saliva created the conditions for function to return. This is not magic, this is biology meeting intention, this is matter responding to consciousness. And it is reproducible, not in the sense that you can spit in dirt and cure blindness, but in the sense that you can learn to work with your body instead of overriding it. You can learn that healing is not something done to you. It is something you participate in. Modern science is rediscovering this in 100 different ways. Studies on the gut-brain axis show that your intestines produce 70% of your serotonin. Studies on the heart show it has its own nervous system, its own intelligence. Studies on fascia show that your connective tissue stores memory and trauma. Your body is not a machine. It is a living, responsive, conscious system. And when you treat it that way, when you engage it with intention and respect, it does things that look miraculous, but they are not violations of nature. They are nature operating at full capacity. Let me take you to one more place. After the man is healed, Jesus finds him again. And he asks him a question. Do you believe in the Son of Man? The man says, who is he that I might believe? And Jesus says, you have seen him. He is the one speaking to you. Notice what Jesus does not say. He does not say you were healed because you believed. The man did not even know who Jesus was when the healing happened. He just followed the instructions. Belief came after. Experience came first. This flips everything religion teaches. We are told to believe first, and then maybe if we are good enough, faithful enough, we might experience something. But Jesus operated in reverse. He created the experience, he gave undeniable evidence, and belief became the natural response. This is why his healings were so threatening. They did not require faith as a prerequisite, they created faith as a result. You cannot argue with a man who can see, you cannot debate away his experience. The healing itself becomes the proof. And that proof is stronger than any doctrine. Now, what does this mean for you? It means that the divide between the spiritual and the physical is a lie. It means that your body is not separate from your consciousness. It means that the mechanisms Jesus used are not locked in the past. They are encoded in your biology right now. You produce EGF, you produce operfin, you produce healing compounds every single day. The question is not whether you have access to them. The question is whether you know how to activate them. And activation begins with attention. The blind man could have ignored Jesus. He could have dismissed the strange method, but he paid attention. He followed through. And that attention, that willingness to engage was part of the healing. You cannot heal what you ignore. You cannot transform what you refuse to see. But when you turn your awareness toward your body, when you listen instead of override, when you trust the intelligence that keeps your heart beating without your conscious effort, you open a door. And on the other side of that door is a capacity you forgot you had. Comment right now, I activate my healing. Not because the words are magic, but because the declaration focuses your attention. Because it signals to your entire system that you are ready, that you are willing, that you are choosing to engage with the intelligence that is already inside you. Subscribe to this channel if you want more of this. If you want to keep going deeper into the mechanisms that were hidden in plain sight, like this video so others who are searching can find it. Because this information does not spread through traditional channels, it spreads through people like you who recognize the truth when they hear it. Jesus healed with clay and saliva because he understood what we are only now rediscovering, that the body is conscious, that intention directs biology, that healing is not a supernatural event, it is a natural one that we have been conditioned to forget. The blind man walked away seeing, not because the laws of nature were broken, but because they were perfectly applied. And those same laws are operating in you right now. The question is not whether you can heal. The question is whether you will pay attention long enough to let it happen. The clay is under your feet. The saliva is in your mouth. The living water is all around you. Everything you need has always been here. Jesus just showed you where to look. What happens when you truly internalize this? When you stop seeing your body as an enemy that needs to be conquered and start seeing it as an ally that wants to work with you. The transformation is not instantaneous like the blind man's healing, but it is profound. It is gradual, it is real, because understanding the mechanism changes how you relate to your own biology. You stop fighting, you start collaborating, and that collaboration is where genuine healing begins. Think about the last time you were sick. Your instinct was probably to suppress the symptoms. Take a pill to stop the fever, take something to dry up the cough, but fever is not the enemy. It is your immune system turning up the heat to kill the pathogen. The cough is not the problem, it is your body clearing out the infection. When you suppress these responses, you are not helping. You are interfering with the very mechanism designed to save you. A doctor once told me that the job of medicine is not to heal. The job of medicine is to create conditions where the body can heal itself. Surgery removes the obstruction. Antibiotics reduce the bacterial load, but the actual healing, the regeneration, the restoration that comes from within. And the moment you understand that, everything changes. Your relationship with pain shifts, your relationship with illness shifts, your relationship with yourself shifts. Let me give you a practical example. You cut your finger, it starts to bleed. Your first response is usually to panic and apply pressure, but within seconds your blood is clotting. Within hours your body is laying down new tissue. Within days the wound is sealed. Within weeks you cannot even see where the cut was. You did not consciously decide to heal. Your body did it automatically. You did not need to understand the biochemistry of collagen synthesis or fibrin formation. Your cells knew. They have been doing this for millennia. The instruction is built in, the blueprint is encoded. All you did was stay out of the way and let the system work. But here is what most people do not realize. That same intelligence that heals a cut is trying to heal your chronic pain. It is trying to heal your inflammation. It is trying to heal whatever is broken inside you. But it cannot work if you are fighting it. It cannot work if you are stressed, angry, and convinced that your body is betraying you. Stress hormones like cortisol suppress immune function. Fear literally contracts your blood vessels and reduces blood flow to the very areas that need healing. Hopelessness affects the vagus nerve, which controls inflammation. Your emotional state is not separate from your physical state. They are the same state. Your consciousness is literally shaping your biology in real time. This is why the blind man had to make a journey, why he could not just stay in one place. Movement activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Walking with purpose, even when you cannot see, shifts you out of the fight or flight response. His nervous system was downshifting from survival mode into healing mode. His body could allocate resources to regeneration instead of emergency response. By the time he reached the pool, he was not in a state of fear, he was in a state of trust. And that state is biochemically different. His hormone profile was different, his immune function was different, his cellular receptivity was different. Everything was primed for transformation, and the water completed it, because water is not just a substance, water is information. It carries minerals. It carries electrical charges, it carries a frequency. Japanese researcher Masaru Emoto showed that water exposed to kind words crystallized into beautiful geometric patterns, while water exposed to harsh words formed chaotic structures. Now, whether you believe his methodology or not, the underlying principle is sound. Coherence affects everything, order affects everything. And the pool of Siloam was moving water, oxygenated water, water that had been filtered through stone and mineral beds. That water carried information of life itself. But let me push even deeper, because most people stop at the physical level and miss the essential truth. The blind man was not just physically blind, he was socially blind, he was religiously blind, he was blind to his own worth. In that culture, a person born with a disability was considered cursed. His own disability was seen as evidence of sin, either his own or his parents'. He was an outcast. He was told his condition was permanent, unchangeable, the result of cosmic judgment against him, and he believed it. He had internalized the story that society told him until he met someone who saw him differently. Jesus did not see a cursed man, he saw possibility. He saw someone worth the time, worth the saliva, worth the mud, worth walking across town to the pool. That recognition alone was transformative, because we heal in the context of relationship. We cannot heal in isolation. We cannot heal when we are being rejected and condemned. The immune system itself is sensitive to social connection. Loneliness literally kills. It increases inflammation markers, suppresses immune function, and shortens lifespan. But connection heals. Being seen, being valued, being treated as if your healing matters, that activates the healing response at the deepest level. The blind man was healed not just by the chemistry of the saliva and clay. He was healed by the fact that someone cared enough to heal him, that someone believed his life had value, that someone was willing to break the rules, to violate the Sabbath, to face criticism, all for him. This is what the religious authorities could not understand. They were so focused on the rules that they missed the point. Healing is not about obedience. Healing is about love, and love cannot be legislated or controlled. It cannot be contained within institutional boundaries. It spills over, it breaks rules, it sees people that systems have discarded, and it acts. The blind man's parents were called in for interrogation because the Pharisees wanted them to renounce the healing, to claim it was not real, to restore the order that had been disrupted. But the parents refused. They said, "He is our son, ask him." They pushed the authority back onto their child, and the child stood firm. "I was blind, now I see." That is the most powerful statement you can make. Not a theological argument, not a doctrinal defense, just the undeniable fact of your own experience. I was broken, now I am whole. I was lost, now I am found. I was asleep, now I am awake, and no amount of institutional pressure can take that from you. So when people ask you for proof, for evidence, for scientific validation of what you're claiming, remember this. The blind man did not have a research paper. He did not have a study published in a peer-reviewed journal. He had his sight, and that was enough. That was everything, because experience is the highest form of knowing. You can read about swimming, you can study the physics of buoyancy, you can memorize all the facts, but until you get in the water, you do not know swimming. You know about swimming, and those are not the same thing. Spiritual truth is the same way. You can read about healing, you can study the mechanism, you can understand the biochemistry. But until you experience it, you do not know healing. You know about healing, and your life will remain unchanged. But when you experience healing, when you taste it, when you feel your body shift from disease to wellness, from rigidity to flow, from despair to hope, then you know. And that knowing cannot be argued away. It can only be shared, and sharing is what spreads the message, not through institutions or authorities, but through person-to-person testimony, through lives that have been visibly transformed, through people willing to say, "I was broken and now I am not." This is your invitation, not to believe something abstract, but to experience something real, to pay attention to your body in ways you probably have not in years, to notice where you are holding tension, where you are contracted, where you are resisting, to ask yourself what stories you have been told about what is possible and what is impossible, to question whether those stories serve you or whether they limit you. To consider that the divide between mind and body, between spirit and matter, between consciousness and biology might not be real, that it might all be one integrated system responding to your attention, your belief, your willingness to engage, and to take one small action toward your own healing. It does not have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as placing your hand on your heart and saying, "I trust you. I trust my body to know what it needs. I trust the intelligence that is already working inside me. I release the need to control and I open to the possibility of being healed." Those words are not magic, but they are a beginning. They are a signal. They are you deciding that healing is possible and that possibility is everything.